Recording is on. Can you guys all see my screen? I currently have the schedule up right now.
Yeah.
And so we're going to continue to the Unix notebook. We'll definitely be able to finish it before 5. If we finish by 4:30, then I'll have one go ahead and get it started on the R notebook. But if not, then we will pick up with the R notebook starting tomorrow morning. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So if any of you guys have logged off, please log back into the Sanity State Bootcamp and onto the Jupyter notebook. See, my computer fell asleep while I was away. I'm trying to reconnect to the VPN. Okay, this is Christina. Yeah, so you guys have to reconnect to VPN. I would try exiting out of the Cisco AnyConnect app. So right click on the icon and exit it, and then try reopening it fresh. And then go ahead and reconnect, and then just remember that the second email that Steven sent you with your username or password is what you use to log on to your VPN. And then you'll go ahead and open up the Jupyter website. Put that in the chat again. And then that'll be using the first username and password that Steven sent you. So I put the link to Jupyter again in the chat. So just give me a heads up when you're back on. And as we wait for Christina to get set up again, is there anyone else who is having issues staying connected? We're still getting the same message. The VPN connection failed due to unsuccessful domain resolution. And you logged in using vpn.sjsu.edu. So this is what you should be typing in.
Yeah.
You did vpn.sjsu.edu. This is what you should be typing into the drop-down menu.
Yeah, and then it's not even coming up to give me the option to put in like the username and password.
What was that?
Sorry, I would say you try restarting your computer.
IT solution. So take out and try restarting your computer, see if that works. In the meantime, does anyone have any questions about the stuff that we've covered so far?
Quick question, is there a way to download all these files to your computer without doing it one by one?
All of what files? So all the files that I have in your home directory?
Yes.
I'm currently in the process, slowly but surely, putting together a GitHub repository. It will be complete by the end of the bootcamp, and you'll have access to everything through that.
Oh, cool, thanks.
When you use dash lines and -n before, what was the difference? Good question. So there actually isn't a difference. You can go ahead and actually explain that. So if you guys want to come up to the command that we ran before 2A. So you guys can all see my screen, right? Oh, and something else I should mention is that if you have a command and you have an output, like right now, this output is pretty small, so it doesn't take up that much space. But when we start looking at files from RNA-seq processing, this output could be like really long and you have to scroll forever, which could get annoying. So anytime you want to remove the output that you're seeing there, if you put a hashtag in front of your command, and this again is pretty universal across programming languages. There are some that are different, like Ruby, for instance, doesn't use this. But for most programming languages, if you use a hashtag, it's interpreted as a comment, and so it won't run anything. So if you put a hashtag and then press play again, you won't get an output. Just note that if you want it again, just remove it and display, and you'll see it happening again.
Amanda?
Yeah.
You said too when we were logging off, everything saves automatically, but there's a manual way of doing it. Can you just show that manual way again?
Yeah, so you can do file. You save current workspace as, your notebook, and you could export it as limited to N. You could save notebook as. If you just press save notebook, then it's just like doing a Control S. So that's what I recommend doing, and it's going to save everything in your home directory. And then at the end of the boot camp, I'm going to show you guys how to export everything so that way you can keep it and store it locally. But yeah, so you can either do file, save notebook, and it'll save it with all your outputs of where you are right now. Or you can do your shortcuts. So Control S if you're a Windows user, Command S if you're a Mac user, will allow you to do shortcut save. And then Alicia, just to answer your question here, you guys want to click on this code block, this last one we have before 2A, and then as Lauren pointed out, if you click the add button, they'll add another code block just below it. And then let's rerun this same command, so you can copy it and paste it into the new code block that you just made. Instead of -n, let's use the -- lines. And then go ahead and run that. So either Shift Enter or the play button at the top. And you'll notice again, similar to in Mike's tutorial, because of course we're using the same command, okay? The -n option and the -- line option gives you the same exact result. And there is, I actually don't know why this is still, you know, if you're user experience, do you know why a lot of commands will have redundant options like that?
Yeah, most of these were written by one person in the very early 70s, Bill Joy. So that's why there's a very similar style to all of them. And single dash is Unix and C and Java style. The -- is conventional for Python. So when Python got bigger and more popular, Python programmers like to type 2 dashes automatically, so they added those.
So it says to appease the Python people is why we're confusing people by having multiple options mean the same thing. And then, again, just similar to what we did on the command line interface that we had through Mike's tutorial, if you do !head --help and press play, you can again pull up that help menu that we saw in the command line. Because again, running things in Jupyter Notebook is literally just like running things on the command line. In fact, that's exactly what you're doing. And so you can see this help menu again. And then just if you're unsure of what, or well, 2 different options have the same output, you can take a look at the help menu. And as you can see here, it says -n. And then it's usually separated by a comma right next to it. So either the -n option or the -- line option will give you the same output. It means the same thing. Let's see. Christina, are you back with us?
I'm logging in now.
Okay, great. Does anyone else have any other questions about what we just covered? Okay. You're just logging into your computer now, or trying to begin now?
VPN.
Oh, awesome. Okay, shouldn't be too much longer, hopefully. So as Christine's getting started, I just want to give you guys a heads up. So previously, I kind of been having the commands written in for you with you adding to it, but I really want you guys to start getting comfortable writing the commands yourself. So most of the command blocks for the rest of this tutorial, you guys will actually be writing the commands yourself in the code blocks and running them. So if you guys run into any issues, the first thing I want you to check is there an exclamation point at the front to let the Python kernel know you want to run a Unix command. And the other thing I want you to check is your syntax to make sure that what you wrote is exactly right and you don't have any typos, because those are the 2 most common issues that will cause you to have an error.
Can I have a third recommendation for what to try if things don't work?
Absolutely.
I think it's natural, especially if you're not a computer science major. If the command obviously didn't do what you wanted it to do, say, oh, it didn't do what I want to do, raise your hand, get help. That's fine, we're here to help. But it's a really good learning experience to look at what went wrong, see if you can figure it out. It may not be totally obvious, but approach it as a puzzle. see how much you can decode, and do a little trial and error. I think you'll be surprised at how fast you get through that command line if you give yourself a chance.
That is great advice, and I am also going to encourage everyone that either tonight after we're done with today's activities for the boot camp, stay on the Jupyter notebook, play around, add cells to your Unix notebook, and start playing around with things. It's really the best way to learn, just trial and error, it's still the same. Good to go, awesome. Okay, so go ahead, everyone, and scroll down to 2A if you're not there already, and we're going to start playing around with some of the commands that I introduced in the lecture. Cool. So this is what I just made a note of. So if you want to run, if you want to list a command but not allow the command to run, you can add that hashtag at the beginning of the line of your code that you don't want to run. And again, this is not specific to Unix, it's applied to most coding languages. So for instance, we see this help menu here. If I want to get rid of it, but I don't want to lose the command line or the command that I wrote to get it, just put a hashtag in front, press play again, and you'll see that go away. It's pretty useful. Okay, so let's start working with the Pwd command. So remember that when you're working in a Unix environment, you are always working in one location or one directory, and that directory is called your current or your working directory. And the Pwd command, which stands for print working directory, will print the directory to your current or your working directory. So if you're ever confused about where you are in the system and want to check to make sure that you are where you are, you will use the Pwd command. I use this command all the time to make sure that I'm in the place that I think I am. So just as an example, and what I showed in the lecture is that if you are currently in your desktop directory on your local system, you run the Pwd command, you'll see something like users, username, and desktop, which is what we saw in the lecture. So let's find out where we are on the San Jose State cluster. So I want everyone to execute the Pwd command in your code block and put in the chat where you're located in the San Jose State cluster. I'm going to give people a few seconds to do that before I do it. Yes, everyone is right. Oops. So what you will see, sorry, it doesn't look like yours. What you guys will see is that you are in your home directory, and actually everyone who has an account on the San Jose State cluster will get a directory within home. And so what you see is you have home, and then you have the name of your username on the San Jose State cluster, and that is your home directory. So that's currently where we are located. Let's take a look at what is in our home directory. And so I want everyone to go ahead and use the ls command that we talked about in the lecture. So the ls command, just to remind you guys, is going to list all the files in your current working directory. So go ahead and run that command. And a few things you should notice first. I'm going to ask you, do you notice any familiar files? Because you can go ahead and type in the chat any files that you've kind of seen and played with already. Unix intro, yeah, that's our Jupyter notebook that we're running right now. Example.txt, yeah. Saturn, when did you see Saturn before, Christina? Lying to me. Same files on the left there. What was that, Christina?
We used it for doing like the training for our internship.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll give it to you. Yeah, so you guys all wrote correct things. So what we see here is, since we're in our home directory, actually all of these files listed here are in our home directory. So this location is in our home directory. So what you should see is all the same files listed here should be listed here. And of course, you see that example.txt file that we've been working with. So the reason that we've been able to open it up and play around with it and take a look at it is because it's in the directory that we currently are. So if we were in a directory that didn't have the example.txt file, would we be able to open it with the commands that we used? What order are they being displayed? So right now, I'm gonna say I thought it was alphabetical, but it doesn't really look like they're being displayed alphabetical. Lauren, do you know what order? They're usually alphabetical in the command line.
It's alphabetical, but capitals come first, and it's column by column.
Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Anna. Alphabetical uppercase first, yes. So do you guys know if our example.txt file wasn't in our current directory, would we be able to use the same commands we've been using to kind of open and play with it? Yes, no, yes.
Yeah.
No, we wouldn't, unless we told it where to find that file. So when you don't add any path to the files in your command, it's just looking in your current directory for that file. So if you're trying to open or you're trying to look at the contents or do a head command for a file and it's not in your current directory, it'll say that it can't find that file. So just kind of an example here to play around a little bit. Let's go ahead and add a cell block. And then let's make up a file name. So let's try to run head on, you could make up a file name. So just because I've been watching Women's College World Series, I'm going to say Women's College World Series.txt, and I'm going to try running that command. And you guys can do this with any made up file you want to, so long as it's not a file in there. And you should all see the same error. So it'll tell you that it cannot open that file. There's no such file in directory because it only knows to look in your current directory unless you tell it something different. So we'll get to the paths a little bit more a little later on in this tutorial. But for now, let's stick to this ls command and hop down to this next exercise. So you should have noticed, as you guys all did, that the example.txt file we used when working with the head command above. We're also going to be using the Saturn.txt file that Christina pointed out in this tutorial, and the example.csv file that you also saw listed here. So we're going to be using this file, and then we're also going to be using the Saturn.txt file in our introductory tutorials. And I just want you to start getting a little bit comfortable playing with options. So this one I want you to run the ls command in the next cell, except this time I want you to list all files in a single column. So you saw before, we see two different columns here. So I want you to list all files now, but this time in a single column. And I give you a hint of the option used to do that. So I'm going to give you guys a few seconds to go ahead and run that. And then once you think you've got it, go ahead and type your answer in the chat of what the command should look like. Yeah, you guys are getting it. Yep. So exclamation point, ls, and then that nice helpful hint tells you that -1 is the option you need to list all the files in there. We do a shift enter. And as you can see, you have all the files listed in a single column. And as some of you, Dr. Heller pointed out, that the files are listed in alphabetical order with uppercase files being listed first. And this is super useful, especially like, for instance, I usually set up a text file that just lists all my samples. And it really helps when I want to do a bunch of stuff with my samples to kind of list everything. And in order for me to look at one sample at a time, I list it all in a single file column or in a single file. And then that way, if I want to know a particular sample, I could just identify the row number. And I'll know what sample that is. So this, believe it or not, is super useful. Again, another thing that I use all the time. But I did give you the hint of what the option was to list things in a single file line. So if I didn't give you that hint, what are some codes or commands you guys could run to know the available options or flags for that ls command? And I have people saying exclamation point ls -- help. Are there any other things you guys can try? Yeah, I know I said this, but I don't think we've run it yet. But there's also man, which stands for manual, and then you could type the command that you want the manual for. So this will work for most commands too. So man again standing for manual space, and then the name of the command that you want to see. And you'll see this should look pretty familiar now. And this is similar to what we saw before in the lecture, where we have this little synopsis here that tells us the syntax goes ls, which is the name of the command, a space, then any options you want, and then the file that you want to look at if you're listing a specific file. And this is actually written so that the things in the brackets are optional, they're not required for the command to run. And of course, we have all of our arguments here. And you see that this one has quite a few more arguments than some of the other commands we've been looking at. And so no one that does coding memorizes all the options to their commands. So all coders, no matter how experienced they are, will look to the help menu to identify what options they need to run. And so if we kind of scroll down this long list of options, you'll eventually get to this option -1, which tells you to list one file per line, which is the option that we use to do that. And then just as you guys said, in addition to the manual command, the man space name of the command option, you can also, as you guys pointed out, you can run !ls-help, as I'm sure that's what most of you guys did, and you'll see the same information, although written slightly differently. This is what the help menu looks like, a little different than the manual is set up to look like. But all the same options are there. So again, if you scroll down far enough, you'll eventually find that -1 option, which is what we use to list one file per line. Did anyone try running ls-h?
So for all of these commands, are they going to be the same no matter what we're doing, or is this just specific to the list command?
They're all going to be the same. Some of them, so it's really this -h that some of them have and some of them don't. So what you notice here is that I did ls-h and I didn't get a help menu for list, right? Instead, it just kind of listed the files again. And so I wonder why that is. So let me change this to what I know is a help menu. And what probably is the case is that there's probably an option called -h. So we scroll down, sure enough, we see that there's an option called -h, and that actually stands for human readable. And so it'll print the sizes in human readable format. Oh, that's if you added a -l. So it's going to list the files as human readable, and then there's some other options you can add to that. So you can use these options in combination as well. And so yeah, for the majority of commands, either the command followed by --help, the command followed by -h, or man space and then the name of the command. So one of those three, or more than, or all three, or 2 out of the 3. But if you try those 3 things, one of them is surely to get you to the help menu for that command and show you what all the options are. Good question. So what I do is I usually start with my --help. If that doesn't work, I'll try man, followed by the command. If that doesn't work, I'll try the command followed by -h. And if for whatever reason none of the 3 work, that probably means it's a newer command or a newer program. And so I'll actually just Google it and see what the internet has to say. Nicholas tried exclamation point --h. And the result was that it was really ambiguous and the system was confused. Let's try it. So you did --h. Yeah, so there's no option for ls of --h. So ls has a nice interface here, a nice help menu. So you can see that the error that it gave is ls, this option is ambiguous. And then it gives you some options. Oh, did you mean --human readable? Did you mean --help? Did you mean --hide? So it gives you some possibilities of options that actually exist for that command. Yeah, so that's great. So I'm gonna encourage you guys, especially after we get offline today, to stay online, stay on the Streaker notebook, or come back to it later tonight or tomorrow morning before we start and just play with things, see what happens. That's how you learn. Okay. So next we have the Mkdmr commands. This is another one that we talked about during the lecture. So the Mkdmr command creates a new folder or directory, and a new directory is going to be created in your current directory unless you specify a different path. So as some examples here, if I was to type in Mkdir my folder, it's going to create a folder called my folder in my current directory, similar to what I showed in the lecture slides. If I were to write Mkdir and then write this explicit path out, I'm going to get the same thing, right? So it's going to create a folder called my folder, but it's going to be in my desktop folder. Because remember, directories or folders are separated by // in command line world. So in the next cell, let's try creating a new directory, but we're going to call it solar system. And let's create it in our current directory, which we know is your home directory. If you think that you might have navigated away from your home directory, all you have to do is just run a Pwd Command just to make sure that you're still in your home directory. And then once you do that, you guys can go ahead and type in the command here to make a new directory called solar system. So everyone to go ahead and do that. I'll give you guys a few seconds to do that, and once you're confident that your command is right, you can go ahead and type it in chat. So I'm going to make the directory yet? You know what that command looks like? Yeah, that's right. Kdir solar system. And then enter, and then how do I know that I made it? There's a note here. I'm going to run ls in the cell after that to see if you were successful. Don't forget your exclamation point. ls, press enter. If you were successful, you should now see listed in your home directory that solar system folder that you just made. Is there anyone who was not able to do that? Okay. In that case, are we good then to move on?
Quick question.
Yeah.
So say you check your list and then you realize you made a typo and you want to fix it, how would you either change the name, like rename the file, or delete it and make a new file?
So we're going to get to renaming files a little later in this tutorial. In terms of removing, I'm a little nervous to do that. I don't think I have the remove function here. Just because I don't want you guys getting used to removing files. But I've got this, so we're okay. So removing, just because I don't get to it later, is actually RM. But once you remove it, it's gone. So it's not like when you right click and move to trash and it goes into your trash bin, and if you accidentally deleted the wrong file, you can go to your trash bin and recover it. When you remove a file on the command line, it's gone. So I want you guys to be very careful with the RM command. But that is how you can remove it. And if you're removing a directory, you have to add an option -R, which stands for recursively, which means to remove that directory and all of its contents. If you just were to write remove system, it'll say that you can't remove it because it's a directory. So the RM command assumes that you're removing just a file, unless you give it the -R option, which again stands for recursive. And so now if I do that and run it, now I didn't get anything, but now if I add a code block here and list what's in my current directory, you'll see that there's no longer a solar system directory there. I deleted it. So a huge word of caution when using that remove function on the command line, because it is gone once you remove it. We'll talk about renaming in the next couple of commands though. So let me go ahead and add that back in there. So in case you're curious, so just go ahead and rerun that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and rerun my ls command, and I should see that I renamed my directory again. Okay, so we just made a directory. That's pretty awesome. But in addition to creating new folders, we kind of want to be able to navigate into those directories. So this is another option that I mentioned in the lecture. It's called the cd command, which actually stands for change directory. And so from your current directory, you can move into any folders within your working directory by running the cd command into your folder name. So again, if you just provide the folder name, you can only navigate into directories that are in your current directory. So if it's in like a subdirectory of a subdirectory in your current directory, you're not going to be able to get there just by adding the name. You have to add that full path. And so we're going to use the next cell to navigate into the solar system folder that we just made. And because it's in our current directory, we can just add it. However, this is the only command that we use that rather than adding an exclamation point to tell the Jupyter Notebook that we're running Unix, we actually have to add a %. And if you're interested, I'm not going to get into it, but if you're interested in the differences between the exclamation point and the % in Jupyter World, we have a link here that you can click on in your time if you're curious to find out what that is. So in this next cell up here, I want you guys to use the cd command. Don't forget to add the % sign before it to navigate into the solar system directory. Already ahead of me. Yeah, so we already have answers in the chat here. cd solar system. And then it's pretty cool, so when you do run that, it actually tells you where you are. So it kind of outputs a pwd command, which is pretty nice. It tells you where you just navigated into. Okay, so now in the next couple code blocks, I'm going to have you guys navigate back to your San Jose State home directory and then back into your solar system again. But this time, I want you guys to use the full paths to get to both locations. So here, I want you to cd back into your home directory using that full path. And then in this block, I want you to cd back into the solar system directory again using the full path. So go ahead and do that. First, navigating back to your home directory. When you're confident of what that looks like, go ahead and type it in the chat. And then navigating back to your solar system directory using the full path. And again, when you're confident, go ahead and write chat. Leah, yep, that's right. So we're going to do %cd, and we're going to really want to go back to our home directory, which I use this. So to avoid syntax errors, I'm going to copy and paste. And then I'm going to enter. And the nice part about cd command is it'll show me where I just went to. So now I'm typing my home directory, and then yeah, again, correct. And then to cd using the full path to my solar system directory that I made. Again, I'll do %cd, and then this time the full path to the solar system directory. And then run that. Did anyone have any trouble doing that, or is anyone confused by that?
I'm just way behind because I was in another meeting, so I'll try to catch up later.
Okay, Lauren, do you want to go Sigurd into breakout room? Sure.
I can't hear you, Lauren.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. If you go to the breakout rooms and go to the one called Lauren's room, then I can meet you there and catch you up. Right. All right.
Okay. So as they're in the breakout room, we can continue. So anyone confused or don't understand why it's possible for us to do what we just did? The different ways to navigate through your directory system. cd is another command that's just used constantly in coding, navigating to different places, making sure you're going to the right place, sometimes using the path, sometimes going right into the directory within your system. You can also do, yeah, we're actually going to get into that, Felix. Glad you pointed that out. I think we get into that with the copy, yeah, I showed you a whole bunch of shortcuts getting ahead of me. Okay, so before we use some of the shortcuts that Felix mentioned in the chat, first we're going to use the next cell to see what our working directory is now. So go ahead and type in the command to print your working directory. Once you're confident, yes, you good job. So exclamation point Pwd, and then we're going to enter. And indeed, you can see that I am in the solar system directory. Hopefully all of you guys are too. If you are not, let me know. And if you are in there, let's take a look at what is in our solar system folder. So when you guys got that command working, go ahead and put it in the chat. Yes, absolutely, exclamation point ls. And what's in our solar system folder? Nothing. Yeah, we just made it. We haven't put anything in there yet. So there's nothing in there that shouldn't be. So let's put some stuff in there. To do that, we're going to use the cp command, which will allow us to copy some files into some places. So we're going to copy some files into our solar system folder using the cp command, which actually stands for copy. And so to run this command, you're going to first provide cp with the location and name of the existing file that you want to copy, followed by the location to where, to where you want to copy the file. So as an example, if you want to copy the file called Saturn.txt from your home directory to your solar system folder, the command would look a little something like what's shown here. So you would do cp space, the path to the file that you want to copy. This is messed up actually, sorry guys, I didn't notice that. It should look like this. So it should look like this, cp, the path to the file that you want to copy, and then a space, and then the location of where you want to copy it to. And so if you guys had, so for the markdowns, you can actually double click on this, and this is how we write everything in here, a little behind the scenes. But for all of you guys, I'm sorry I didn't catch this before. So if you notice in this part here of your command, you guys all had a cp here. Can you guys please double click on that and get rid of that CP? That should not be there. And then once you've gotten rid of that CP, just press the play button and it'll go back to looking like normal. Everyone able to do that? Anyone have a problem doing that? I'll take the assignments to me who did it. Okay, so as we're learning about the copy command, I'm also going to share with you guys some shortcuts that I use all the time. So there are several built-in shortcuts in Unix to navigate throughout your directory structure. Some of these shortcuts are listed below, and I want you guys to start using these in the tutorial. And so there's a shortcut to your home directory, and that's a tilde. And there's a shortcut for your current directory, and that's just a dot. And there's a shortcut to indicate the directory above your current directory, so that's a dot. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to use these shortcuts to copy the Saturn.txt file you guys all saw in your home directory from your home directory to your solar system directory. And so remember that your current directory is your solar system folder. So I kind of have this already written out for you since this is the first time you guys are playing with shortcuts. So before we get into that, I want to come here and let's first Pwd just to double check where we are. So we are indeed in the solar system directory. So what you see is one directory above our current directory is the home directory, right? And so the shortcut, rather than writing /home/ your username, instead you can just do .. since it's one up from where you currently are. So what this command does is it says, I'm going to copy with the cp command. I want you to move up one directory, so into, in my case, AS Butler. And in that directory, you should see a file called Saturn.txt. And I want you to copy that file, Saturn.txt, that is one directory above where I currently am. And I want you to copy it to my current working directory, which is abbreviated with a dot. And so everyone can go ahead and run that command. And then I want you to use the next cell to list all files in your current directory. And you should now see that file there. Is there anyone who did not see that? Anyone have any questions? What is the full stop at the end? The full stop? I'm confused by your question. Ron, you want to unmute your mic?
Full stop is a period.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
You're,
I meant the period after text. What's that supposed to mean again?
So this actually represents a shortcut for your current directory.
Sorry, I missed that part. I didn't see that. Okay, fine. Thank you.
No, good question. Anyone else have any questions? So I actually, as I kind of started learning and getting more comfortable on the command line, I actually keep a Word document that has just a list of common Unix commands that I use all the time. So things like these shortcuts, I mean, now I know them because I use them so often, but before I got so comfortable with them, I have a Word document with kind of a running list. Anytime I learn a new Unix command and I'm like, oh, I'm going to use that again, I put it in my Word document, so that way I don't have to search for it every time. So if you guys are going to start doing more work on the command line, I highly recommend doing that. So to get you guys more comfortable with these shortcuts, we're gonna kind of play around with this copy command. So what are some other ways that you could have written the copy command to copy that standard.txt file from your home directory to your solar system folder? So actually, let's go ahead before we get further into that. Let's add some code blocks here, and I want you guys to type in using the copy command some other ways that you could have copied that standard.txt file into your current text file. Anyone have any other ways you could have copied your standard.txt file from your home directory to your current directory or to the solar system directory? So I'm going to be great and put it in the chat. You could not use a shortcut, right? So what would that look like? What would your command would look like? Your CP command if you didn't use the shortcut. CP home username, yes, absolutely. Felix, that's right. Any other ways you could have copied that file from your home directory to your solar system directory? Oh, Felix, jumping ahead of you. Yes, awesome, Emily. Home username standard.txt to dot from your current directory. Copy and paste. Using a graphical interface maybe, but not on the command line. Anybody else? Any other usage of clever shortcuts? So I'm going to do one that no one's done yet. So I know that the shortcut to my home directory is tilde, right? And so just to make sure, I'm just going to, and guys, always run commands to prove things to yourself if you're not sure. Yeah, so now I'm saying some with the shortcut. Nice. So if we run pwd, I see that I'm here. So if I want to change directories, and then just remember cd, we start with %. So I'm going to change directory to my home directory, and I'm going to use tilde, because I just learned that tilde is my home directory, right? So I'm going to go ahead and run that. And as you can see, that brought me to my home directory. So now that I'm there, I'm going to kind of add a couple more code blocks here. And let me go back to my solar system directory. So again, a couple ways you can do that. Since I'm in my home directory and I know my solar system directory is there. How do I know my solar system directory is there? Well, if I didn't, I could just list what's in here. And I see that my solar system directory is there. So that means that I can go ahead and cd into my solar system directory. And now I just was shown that I'm there. And so now I want to use this tilde to copy that standard.txt file. So I know you guys, I'm gonna put this in the chat, but just to show everyone here, what it looks like. So I'm starting the exclamation point CP, and so I know that the standard.txt file is in my home directory, so I'm gonna use tilde to represent my home directory, and I'm confident that it does. And then I'm gonna pull up, sorry for that, and then I'm gonna pull up that standard.txt file. And I'm going to copy it now to my current directory using a dot. And then again, I'm going to list now what's in my current directory, and I can see that standard.txt file. Okay, any questions about copying or using shortcuts? A question? Uncomfortable? As you play around more and more with these, you'll get more comfortable, I promise. So if you're not comfortable now, take the time to play. It's important to play around, to make mistakes. That's how you do. So notice that the name of the file that you just copied stayed the same when you copied it into your solar system folder. This is because you provided the location for copying the file, but you didn't specify a file name. So if you wanted to change the name of the file to say Saturn_copy.txt when you copied it, the command would have looked something like this. So you would cp one directory up from where you are, which is your home directory, find that Saturn.txt file, and if you wanted to copy it to your current directory with a dot, and then slash means that I'm in my current directory, and so I want to name that file Saturn_copy.txt. So you can also copy a file within the same directory as long as you indicate a different name. So for example, if we within our same directory, our same solar system directory, wanted to make a copy of that Saturn.txt file and call it Saturn_copy.txt, we can do that. So just a warning here, if you try to copy a file name that is already in use in that directory, the copy command will overwrite the existing file, and it won't automatically warn you. So if you have a file with a ton of stuff in it, so if I wanted to make another example file, and I called it example.txt, it'll overwrite my current example.txt file, and I'll lose that information. So very important to know what the file names are of the files you have in your current directory before you go making new file names or copying files as different file names. So in this next cell, we're going to use the cp command to make a copy of the Saturn.txt file, and we're going to name the copy Saturn_copy.txt. And then I want you to run ls in the cell after that to see if you're successful. So once you guys figure out the right syntax to run that copy command, go ahead and put it in the chat. So you're making a copy of the Saturn.txt file, but you're naming it Saturn_copy.txt. What does that look like? Yeah, Hannah, good job. If I pronounce your guys' name wrong, somebody you might correct me, please. Yeah, that's absolutely right. So, exclamation point CP, Saturn.txt, and we are going to make a copy of that file that we know is in our current directory. We're going to call that Saturn_copy.txt. I am going to run that command, and now I'm going to run an ls command. Hannah Lee. Oh, thank you so much. I said it right that time, Hannah Lee. Awesome. Thank you so much for correcting me. Okay, and now I want to run an ls command, and what you see is that Hannah Lee was indeed right. We now have two files. We have Saturn.txt and we have Saturn_copy.txt. And just a quick question, should those be the same exact files? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, right? We just copied the same file, we just gave it a different name. So, and we're going to take a look at take a look at those files and see that they are indeed the same files in a little bit. So the next command we're going to want to play with, which Felix got a little ahead of us, is the move command. Or who was it that wanted to rename a file instead of or remove it? So this is.
I actually lost you after the Saturn text because my internet got disconnected. Can I go to a breakout room to catch up?
Yeah, for sure. Lauren, are you back yet? Not yet. Maybe, Phil, do you think you can take, who was it, Veronica?
Veronica, yeah.
Veronica? Yeah, I just gotta figure out how to go to my breakout room.
Okay. So you should be able to click on your name on the breakout room. It should be where the chat's located in the WebEx.
Moving kind of slow. Chat.
It's on the participants window, I think.
That I can see.
It's at the top. At the top, when you see file and the chair, and then there's breakout sessions.
I got it. Okay, I can move to my breakout room. Can you move yourself to the breakout room? She's already there.
Awesome. Great. We'll meet you back here. Okay. So we're going to move on here to the move command, which can be used as Christina wanted to know how to rename stuff. So the MV or move command can be used to either rename or move an existing file. And so to rename a file, if you supply MV with the name of an existing file, followed by the name of a new file, the existing file is going to be renamed to that new file name. So for example, if we want to change the name of Saturn_copy.txt to Mars.txt, we would run the command mv Saturn_copy.txt space Mars.txt, and that's going to rename that file. So again, just another warning here, disclaimer is that make sure that you use a unique file name when you rename your file. Again, if you try to rename your file with the name of a file that already exists, with that move command, you will overwrite the existing file, and it will not warn you first. So actually, let me show you what that looks like before we do this. So right now, you guys can all kind of add some code blocks here and play along with me. So if you want to go ahead and just list what's in your current directory right now, you should again see your Saturn and your Saturn copy.txt. We use this command all the time. Now, if we were to use the move command and move our Saturn_copy.txt file, and we were to name it Saturn.txt, what's going to happen? I know you guys can unmute your mic so you can put it in the chat. So not exactly duplicate, you're actually going to rename your Saturn copy.txt file. Yeah, and it's going to be renamed to Saturn.txt, which means you're going to lose your Saturn.txt file, actually, because everything that was in your Saturn copy.txt file is going to now be called Saturn.txt. And so we can go ahead and run this. And now, I want you guys to go ahead and list what's in your directory now. You notice? Yeah, we're back to just having one file. So now we just have this one file called Saturn.txt. Many of these files are the same anyways, but just so you know, that Saturn.txt file, the context of it would have been overwritten by whatever was in your Saturn_copy.txt. Of course, these were the same files, so we're okay, you didn't overwrite anything, just kind of remove the copy, if you will, in this case. Let's get that copy back. So go ahead and let's copy Saturn again. So go ahead and run that command again, and then run an ls command to make sure you have both those files again. And if you're all out of code blocks, just add some more. So is there anyone who doesn't currently have the Saturn.txt and the Saturn_copy.txt file in their current directory? Okay, I will take your silence to mean you guys all have both files right now in your solar system folder. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to rename that Saturn_copy.txt file, and we're going to name it to Mars.txt. So I want you guys to write the command to do that. So rename Saturn_copy.txt to Mars.txt, and once you're confident you have the right command, so far ahead of me. Diksha, is that how you say it?
Diksha, yeah, yes, that's it.
Diksha, you've been ahead of me a few times now. That's absolutely right. So you're going to use exclamation point at the Saturn copy.txt and rename it to Mars.txt. And go ahead and run that, and then use your ls command and take a look at the files now. Were you guys all successful in renaming your Saturn_copy.txt file? Should say, is there anyone who was not successful in doing that? Okay. Does anyone need more time before we move on to the next exercise here? Are you guys all up to speed with me? Okay, I'll take your silence as concurrence. So this next note here is to move. If you supply move with the name of an, if you supply move with the name of an existing file followed by an existing directory, the file will be moved into that directory. So for example, if you want to move your Mars.txt file that you just renamed up one directory, you would use the command move space Mars.txt space ... which of course we now know is an abbreviation from one directory above where you currently are. And that's going to move your Mars.txt file to the directory above your current directory, which is your home directory. If you want to move your file to a location somewhere other than the directory above your working directory, you can put the full path to the move command. So if you wanted to move it somewhere else, this is an example if you were, let's say, on your local computer on your desktop. If you did env Mars.txt and put out this path of users, username, desktop, my directory, that will move that Mars.txt file into your folder called my directory that lives on your desktop. And so before we test this application of the move function, let's use the next cell to take a look at the move help menu. So I want you guys to go ahead and open up the move help menu. So you guys should all know a few different ways to pull this up now. So as soon as you guys have a command to pull up the move help menu, go ahead and put it in the chat. Yeah, Tyler, that's right. Leah, yep. Maybe Leah --H, I don't know if that's gonna work. Man, MD, that's right. So go ahead and give all of yours a try, and let's see what works. So I'm gonna do exclamation move --help and run that. And I'm able to pull up my move function here. And what you can see, of course, is again a lot of different options here. And you can read about what those options mean, their definitions on the right. And similar to a lot of these commands is that you'll see the 1- way to call the option, and then you'll also see your 2- way to call the same option. So again, these things mean the same thing. So now in the next couple of cells, I want you to use the move command to move Mars.txt into your home directory, which is one directory above your current directory. And then I want you to use ls to see if you were successful. So go ahead and move that Mars.txt file into your home directory. There's a variety of different ways you can choose to do that. So once you're satisfied with the way you're doing it, go ahead and put it in the chat. Yeah, Leah, that's right. Anyone have any other ways to move the Mars.txt file to their home directory besides the way that we put? Nobody has any other way? You guys can scroll up and take another look at them shortcuts. Yes, it absolutely can enable. Go ahead and give it a try. What does that command look like? Once you try it and you get it to work, tell me what it looks like. Dick shove you to it. Yeah, that's right. It looks like you're moving the standard.txt file, not the Mars.txt file, but it would be the same.
Oh, yeah, I missed it, yeah.
That's right, though. It's the same exact syntax, just a different file name. So they should make sure you return that standard.txt file to your solar system directory.
Sure.
If you haven't yet, and
Yeah, I'm doing it now.
Awesome. And does anyone have any other ways you could have moved that file into your home directory? So Leah and Diksha showed a couple of shortcuts you can use to do that. You can also write out the explicit path. So go ahead and pick whatever way you want to, and use that move command to move your Mars.txt file up one directory. I'm going to use .dot. And then after you do that, go ahead and run the ls command. And what do you notice about what's in your directory? Could you successfully move the Mars file? Is there anyone who wasn't able to move that Mars file? And now if you guys want to make sure that you indeed moved it to your home directory, run this ls command again, but this time give it the path to your home directory. You can use a shortcut, you can use the explicit path, however you want. I'm going to do an ls tilde, which is to list all files in my home directory. And I do see the Mars.txt file there. Well, in Diksha, you probably don't have your Saturn.txt file in there anymore, so you moved it, you moved it, and overwrote it.
Yes, yeah.
Tricksy stuff. Yeah, so go ahead and make sure you recopy that. So copy it from your
That's what I'm doing.
directory. Yeah, copy. Wonderful. Anyone have any questions about the move command, more shortcuts, renaming files? Okay. No one has any questions. I want you guys to go ahead and do the next 3 steps we have here. So if you successfully move Mars.txt to your home directory, you should no longer see it in your current directory, which is your solar system directory when you run ls. So I want you to use the next 3 cells to navigate to your home directory. Don't forget, when changing directories, you need that % sign before the command. And then I want you to print your working directory to make sure that you are now indeed in your home directory. And then I want you to list all files in your home directory. So, and then give me a thumbs up or say done or something in the chat when you've done all 3 of those steps. So I'm done. He is done. Anybody else done? Done. Zinru, is that how you pronounce your name? Yes, awesome. Okay, getting a lot of done. It's great. So you guys all successfully did that? I'll go ahead and do it too. Let me just remind myself of where I am. So I am indeed in the solar system directory, just checking. And then I'm going to cd back one into my home directory. And then I'm going to print my working directory to make sure that I am in my home directory. And then I'm going to list all my files in here. Again, to reconfirm that my Mars.txt file was indeed successfully moved to my home directory, and I can see it there. So the next thing we want to do And you guys all, is there anyone who doesn't see the mars.txt file in the home directory? You don't have trouble with that? Okay, hope your silence means that you're all good. So moving on to the cat command. So this is another one that I use all the time. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to take a look at the files that we've been copying and moving around using the cat command. So the cat actually stands for concatenate. You already have experience using the head command to view the first several lines of the file, but sometimes it's going to be useful to view the entire file. So the cat command will print the full contents of the file. So for example, if you're on cat standard.txt, it will print everything in the standard.txt file. So in the next cell, I want you to use cat to view the contents of the standard.txt file. And keep in mind where we are. We are currently in our home directory. Once you have the command to open up everything in that standard.txt file, I want you to copy and paste what are the contents of the standard.txt file. What's inside that file. Yeah. Neville, is that how you pronounce your name?
Naval.
Naval?
Yeah.
Okay. Naval's got it, Alicia's got it, Annalise got it. Yes. So I'll go ahead and run it. Always remember the exclamation point. Cat, Saturn.txt. And we get a nice fun fact here that the International Space Station is actually flying 254 miles above the surface of the Earth, which is true. In the next code block, I want you guys to open up your mars.txt file with the cat command and give me a thumbs up or a yes to let me know if that indeed is the same exact thing. It is a fun fact, right? Yeah, same thing, yeah, everyone's got it. So, yeah, so similarly, if we run mars.txt, we know that we made an exact copy of that standard.txt file. So we would expect, syntax error, guys, always. So we would expect that the mars.txt file to have exactly the same thing as the standard.txt, since it is an exact copy. So in the next cell, we're going to use cat to see how many lines are in the example.txt file. So I want you guys to use the cat command to take a look at everything that's inside that example.txt file and tell me how many lines are there. Ditch that, Evelyn, yep. These are absolutely right, there are 20 lines. So similar to how we opened up the static.txt file and the mars.txt file on the command line, we do the same command, exclamation point cat, except this time we want to take a look at what that's in this example.txt file that we just keep looking at the beginning of. So if we go ahead and run that, we will see the full contents of that example.txt file, and it actually has 20 lines in it. So the cat command is really, really useful. And thus far, we've been using cat to view files in our current directory. However, if you want to open a file that's not in your current directory, you would simply provide cat with the full path to the file that you want to view. So for example, I know right now we are in a working directory, so we have that Mars file in there. So actually let's move it out of there. So I want you first to move the Mars file from your current directory back into your solar system directory. And then when you did that, do an ls command to make sure it's no longer in your current directory. So give me a thumbs up or done, or write the command that you use to move your mars.txt file from your current directory into your solar system directory. Yep, that works. Oh, actually, Zinru, you moved you're in your current directory, so you moved your mars.txt file from your current directory to your current directory. So is I think your current directory should be your home directory, right? Oh, you're already in solar system, okay. Then that's right. Yeah, so first, take a look at what directory you're in. So I'm currently in my home directory, so the command that Zoom group wrote in the chat won't work for me. But since I'm in my home directory, I can run the command to move my Mars.txt file. And I'm gonna move it to my solar system directory. And then if I did that successfully, now if I do an ls command, again, I'm in my home directory. Yeah, that's right. Nival, you're right, yeah. So now if I want to take a look at my home directory, you'll notice that the Mars.txt file is no longer there, right? Because I just moved it into my solar system directory, so it shouldn't be in my home directory anymore. But now I want to take, I'm in my home directory, I don't want to leave it, but I want to open up this Mars.txt file. So now I want you guys to use the cat command, but use the explicit path to where the Mars .txt file is, and feel free to use shortcuts. And once you're comfortable with that command, once you've opened up the Mars.txt file using the path, go ahead and type the command that you used in the chat. So I'm looking for the cat command you guys use to open up the Mars.txt file inside solar. Yeah, that's right. So Emily, you got it. Aylin, yes, you got it. Aylin, you're always writing question marks. Run it and see if it works. Answer with confidence because you tried it. Yeah, definitely that works. So a couple of things. So I'm going to go ahead and say cat. I know that my solar system directory is in my home directory, so I'm going to use a shortcut for my home directory, which is the tilde, followed by solar system. And then I want to open the Mars.txt file. And so that will allow you to open up a file anywhere within your system without actually having to move into that directory. So, and then just to confirm that even though I opened up a file in my solar system directory, if I do a pwd, I am still in my home directory, so I never actually moved there. So that'd be pretty useful. Any questions about any of the commands that we've used so far before we start assigning some variables? And I think this is, yeah, so this is the last section of the Shooter notebook, is assigning variables. Any questions to this point? Is there anyone who is not with me? It's totally okay if you're not. We have helpers to help with exactly that, so. Okay, we will move on then to this last section of this Unix intro notebook to assign variables in Unix. So in most programming languages, including Unix, we use variables to store information. The variables are named objects. I actually got lost after coming back from the breakout room. I'll just listen to the lecture first. Okay, so Veronica, if you just want to pick up with us here at assigning variables, and then if you can hang out after the day's over today, so at 5 o'clock, it'll be about 10 minutes and I'll catch you up with what you missed. Does that work for you? Awesome. Okay, so yeah, go ahead and jump ahead to the assigning variables in Unix. And just follow along from here on. Okay, so assigning variables in Unix. I'm going to talk a little bit about this in the lecture. So in most programming language, including Unix, we use variables to store information. So variables, as I mentioned previously, they're named objects and they're going to refer to data stored in memory. And so in Unix, as I showed you guys in the lecture, we use the equal sign operator to assign information to a variable. So just remember that it's very important, again, to choose informative, memorable, and short variable names. So just for example, In the next cell, we're going to use the variable SSDIR to create a variable for the path to our solar system directory. And so, as you can see in here, and actually in Unix, I should point out that you could either hold the path as a variable using string notation, which is what these quotes are, but you don't have to in Unix. And so you can actually remove that. Let's try running it like this and see that. This is in Python language, obviously, right now. I'm not sure why. Let's actually put the exclamation point and see what happens. We can write this exactly the thing, so we don't need quotes. Very sound. Do you want us to change the username? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Yes, change username to your username. Thank you. Rashi, is it? Awesome. Okay, thank you, Rashi. Yes. Replace username with your username. Add the exclamation point at the start, and I think you can keep or not the quotes that were around this, and go ahead and press play. And as you guys remember from the lecture, to call a variable in Unix, you add the $sign in front of the variable name. So in the cell below, we're going to print the SSDIR variable that we just created by running this command, using the echo command that you saw in my lecture. And so exclamation point echo, $sign to indicate we're looking for a variable, and then SSDIR for what that variable is. So go ahead and run that. That did not work. This is why. Okay. So for whatever reason, variables are a little weird in Jupyter. And we actually have to write it in a Python format, but then it'll still hold true in Unix. And if Lauren hopped back on, I'll have her explain why, since she knows more about Jupyter Notebooks than I do. Okay, so sorry about that. Go ahead and go back up to this code block here, the first code block in assigning variables in Unix, and remove the exclamation point, and just make it be SSDIR equals, and then put quotes around the path to your solar system. So it's actually holding this variable as it's known as a string, or a string of characters, so like words, as opposed to numbers, is what you're telling it with the quotes. And go ahead and rerun that. And then after you rerun that, go ahead and run that echo command again. And hopefully you should see that indeed, when you call this SSDIR variable, you see the path to your solar system directory. Is there anyone who was not able to do that? Okay, I'll take your silence to mean that everyone is good. Everyone's up to here. Everyone has a variable right now called SSDIR that points to their solar system directory. Yes, awesome. Thank you, Haley. Okay, so since we created this SSDIR variable to hold the path to our solar system folder, we can now call that variable to navigate to our solar system folder. We can use it to copy files into there. We can basically call it whenever we want to point to our solar system folder. So we no longer have to write the explicit path. We no longer have to use these tildes or dot shortcuts. We now have a variable to this direct path. And so now that we know that, I want you guys to use these next 3 code blocks here to navigate to your solar system folder, this time using the SSDIR variable. And then I want you to print your working directory to see if you did indeed successfully navigate to your solar system folder. And then I want you to list the contents of your solar system folder. And so once you're confident that the commands you think work do work, so A1 test them and make sure that they work, and then let me know what those commands are in the chat. Or you can always unmute your mic and shout them in if you want. Yes, Rashi, that's exactly right. So Rashi kind of beat us all to it. Sorry, there in the chat, we'll go ahead and write that first one. So CD $sign to let Unix know that we are calling a variable, and then SSDIR, which is the name of the variable that we are calling, and then you can go ahead and run that. And thanks to the convenience of the CD command, you should actually see that tab kind of show up underneath. But just in case you want to be double sure, I always write Pwd commands all the time. Go ahead and print your working directory and type the command that you would use to do that in the chat. Yes, Natalie, that's absolutely right. Exclamation point Pwd. And you should indeed see that you are in your solar system path. And now I want you to use your ls command to list the contents of your solar system folder, but I want you to list them in a single file. So go ahead, yeah, Emily, that's right, yes, and yes. So exclamation point ls-1, and that should list the contents of your solar system folder in a single column. So as you can see, as we all know, both our bars.txt and our scatter.txt files should be there. Veronica, for you, I'm not sure if both those files would be there depending on where you left off in the breakout room, but we'll catch you up right after the day today. Any questions about that? We're going to play around with it a little bit more. But I just, so before we start playing with this a little more, just to have some fun, let's make another variable. So let's make a variable. You can kind of copy and paste the same syntax here, except let's store like a fun phrase or something. So let's say, sky is green. Run that. Oh, I just replaced. This is another important note. So I had a variable stored with SSDIR, and now I just reassigned that variable to something else. So what do you think that variable is going to be now if I call it? You guys can write what you think in the chat. Yeah, it's definitely a string. Yeah. So I reassigned it. Diksha, you're right. Yeah, and you're right. So I reassigned that variable by accident because I didn't change the variable name. So I reassigned that to the sky is green. So now when I try to call it, I'm going to get the sky is green, which is going to do me no good because that is not a path where I want to go.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
So what planet did you have in mind?
With the sky is green?
The sky is green, yeah.
I have no idea. My color's all an illusion anyways, it's just our brain's interpretation of receiving those signals, but that's another story for another time. I love the philosophy of our imagery and our collective hallucination of what we call things. So I guess there are, like for instance, the mantis shrimp, one of the coolest ocean-dwelling creatures that there are. If you guys ever go to YouTube and look up fun facts about mantis shrimp, they have a ton more cones and rods than we do, and their color spectrum that they can interpret is just so much more complex and intricate than ours. So maybe in your world, the sky would be what we would consider green. Okay, so I just want to correct and make sure that I have the right variable assigned here. So just know that, I know this was a question during the lecture, so anytime you assign a variable to something else, it's always going to be maintained to the most recent thing you assigned it to. So I'm just going to reassign this again to my solar system directory. If you guys made the same mistake that I did, I'm sure you're following along with me, go ahead and change it back. And then just do a quick echo to make sure that you successfully changed it back. Okay, is there anyone who doesn't currently have SSDIR held as their solar system path? Okay, so in the last few minutes here, we're going to play around with these last questions. So, and again, just to remind you guys all, the second that you guys X out of this Jupyter notebook, that stored variable is going to be lost. So if you were to X out of this and then want to reopen it and start using the SSDIR variable, you're going to have to redefine it. So just keep that in mind. And so now that we've introduced some of the most common Unix commands, I want you guys to play around and use the next several cells to practice using these commands and answer the following questions. And kind of as you guys come up with the answers, go ahead and put them in the chat. So the first one would be, can you open up a directory with the cat command? Our next question is, what happens if you rename a file to a file name that's already in use in the same directory? And then another question is, what happens if you rename a file to a file name that's already in use in the same directory, but when you rename it, you move it to a different directory? And what are the options for the cat command? So I want you guys to kind of use the last 4 minutes we have here and just start playing around. If you're unsure if something's going to work or not, test it and see if it does. It's okay if you accidentally delete or get rid of anything. I have backup copies of everything, so don't be scared. I'll give you guys till 4:59 to answer these questions, and then I'll give you all the answers. You guys got about 2 minutes to play around. If you get the answers, go ahead and put them in the chat. Show off a little bit. Mkdmr creates a new directory, but how do you create a new file? Good question. So I probably should have included that, but yeah, so Felix uses a touch command. I don't know. So I use a text editor. So similar to like Microsoft Word or Notepad or something like that, that you can kind of open up on your computer in one of those applications, and then you can start typing on it. There's also different text editors that you can use on the command line, and people have very strong opinions about which ones they like to use. I've actually never used Touch Felix to create a new file. So I usually use a text editor. I prefer Nano, but I was recently told by a developer that I have to stop using Nano and find a real text editor. So gedit. Naval, is that good? You like that one? Oh, touch up create an empty file? Good to know. Yeah, that's what I use.
I like it better than Nano.
What, gedit?
Yeah.
It's got more functionality than Nano?
Yeah, it looks better.
Cool, I'll have to look into it. Yeah, I'm collaborating on a COVID-19 project, and I'm working with a developer, and he's like, Amanda, can you at least pretend like you're a real developer and start using a real text editor? It's like, wow, I always hate, I just learned. I hate Vim personally, which a lot of old school programmers will use Vim, and it's just so not intuitive, which is why I started using Nano. What did you look it up, Felix? You never used Touch until right now?
Vim is much too modern for my taste.
Modern for you? What do you use, though?
VI.
Oh, you use VI. Isn't VI, isn't that Vim?
It's the ancestor of Vim.
No, you come before Vim.
My fingers refuse to forget how to use VI.
You know, that's what both VI and Vim. You go to ask someone how to do something, and they're like, I have no idea. I need to open it up and just let my fingers go.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's so crazy.
That's our finger memory.
Yeah, right? It's cool.
Whichever editor you like to use, you get your fingers get used to doing it, then you have to go to something else and you can't do it.
Exactly.
I prefer VI or Vim, because they're both, the commands are mostly the same.
Okay.
Just the new features are, so there's added features in Vim.
Gotcha. Yeah, I really like Nano. Nano's super easy to use, but it's apparently very limited in what it can do. I use Notepad++.
Well, I love that too on Windows. That's where I take points where I put all my notes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's nice for note taking.
You know,
That's not bad.
you don't have to worry about saving anything.
Oh, that's
You don't
convenient.
save whatever you do in the temp folder, and then you just click, you can open up like 20 tabs. You never have to worry about saving a file unless you really want to. And then you can rename the file.
Oh, that's super convenient. Look at that. Untitled? What's that? 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. Is that an editor? So sorry guys, got wrapped up in this text editor conversation. It's 5:02 now, so I know if any of you guys have to jump, that's okay. Go ahead and jump off, and we will catch up tomorrow morning. For those guys hanging around, let me just kind of answer these questions for you. So does anyone know, can you open up a directory with cat? No, you absolutely cannot. So just to kind of show you what happens if you try, which I hope everyone tried. So we're in here, solar system I know is a directory, so let me go ahead and just try to have that directory. And what you get is it'll tell you that it's a directory, so it won't let you do it. What happens if you rename a file to a file name that's already in use? I think we already covered that. Oh, good to know. Thanks, Jonathan. Yes, Rashi indeed overwrites the file. Yeah, and yes. So what happens if you rename a file that's already in use? It'll overwrite it. What happens if you rename a file to a file name that's already in use in the same directory? When you rename the file, you also move it to a different directory. So it is safe, yes, you'll actually just move that file to your different directory. So if, let's take a look here, run ls, so I have Mars and Saturn. So I know that there's a file in here called Saturn. And so if I move Saturn .text and I change it to the same name, but I put it in a different location, so I'll put it in one directory up, but I'm gonna give it the same name. Actually, let me do my Mars.text one because I already have Saturn.text in my home directory. And that'll overwrite as we just talked about. So let's do Mars.text. So I'm moving the Mars.text file that's here. I'm moving it to a new location though. And so if I run that, now if I look in my current location, I don't see the Mars.text file anymore. But if I look to where I moved it to, I will see my Mars.text file there. So it just changed location. Gotta head out, please, Jonathan. And then, let's see, last question, what are the options for the cat command? So you guys don't have to say all of them, but I guess just what would be the command that you guys are in to take a look at that. I've done this a couple of times now. It's just looking at that -- help. So of course, these would be all of the options for that cat command. So guys, that's everything in the Unix notebook, but it all needs to be done in one line, like at once, so you don't overwrite. Yeah, well, I mean, if you were to put it in the same directory, you would overwrite, or just not even be the same name. Oh, actually, let's see. So if you do Mars.text and you change it to, oh, the file's not in there anymore. So let's CP. So I moved it to location up. So now I'm going to copy that Mars.text file, and I am going to put it back into here. We'll actually technically make a copy of it into my current directory. And then let's ls again. So it's right there. And then what I can do is I can actually move this, but change the name of it. So now if I add a line here, and I am going to move the Mars.text file but I'm gonna rename it. I'm gonna move it up one location, and I'm gonna rename it to Mars_copy.text. I'm gonna run that, and then I am going to list what's in the directory above me, and what you'll see is I have the Mars copy there. So that's another thing you could do. I know we're like 6 minutes over, so you guys have already had to jump. So thank you guys so much. This concludes our Unix Intro Jupyter Notebook. I know we didn't get to start R, but we will start with R first thing tomorrow. Is there any other final questions before you guys sign off? And then Veronica, if you just hang out, we'll catch you up on what you missed.